At this point, we were making out on his couch, and he started to take my clothes off. I said to myself, "What are you doing?" I quickly jumped up and ran outside. This all started at the beginning of my freshman year. There I was, rushing along the corridor for my next class while I was trying to get my books out of my bag, when I bumped right into someone. I began to apologize, and as I looked up to see who I had just walked into, sorry, I was momentarily lost for words. I locked eyes with the most good-looking guy I had ever seen. I just assumed he was a new senior in school, so I tried to get out my apology as quickly as possible so I wouldn't be late for my biology class. When I walked into my class, I sighed with relief. I just had made it to class, and the teacher wasn't here yet. As I was walking towards my seat, there was a lot of chatter and commotion about this new teacher. We had all heard that this year there would be a new bio teacher because Mr. Robertson had retired. We were all expecting a middle-aged to old man or woman to be walking through that door at any second. Then it happened. The handle turned and the door swung open to reveal a very attractive guy standing in the doorway, who was also, in fact, the same guy I had just ran into in the hallway. We started asking the usual questions you do when you get a new teacher. What's your name? How old are you? Then some of the girls in the class began to ask more personal questions like, do you have a wife, a girlfriend, or children? By this point, our new teacher was blushing and becoming more and more uncomfortable. He was trying to change the conversation back to a topic he was more comfortable with. He told us his name, but wouldn't say how old he was. Apparently, this was his first year of teaching, so we guessed that he must be pretty young. A few months passed in his class, and I was loving it. I mean, not only was he easy on the eyes, but his classes were also a lot of fun. He was super helpful and super relatable. It felt like a break from the norm. Plus, having a younger and more attractive teacher definitely kept us all interested in what he had to say. After a while, I began to catch him staring at me from across the busy classroom. It seemed like every time I looked at him, he would quickly look away like I had just caught him. It didn't take long before when I found him looking, he wouldn't look away anymore, and instead, he would look right at me with a little grin. It made me feel special, and even a little bit flattered, I guess, because he was very attractive, and all the girls had crushes on him. This was until one day, I was doing nothing wrong, and he gave me detention. I was furious. I called my mom to tell her how angry I was and that I would be late today because I had detention. Everyone was leaving at the end of the day, and I just sat there at my desk waiting for him to come and tell me what it was that I had done wrong. I was the only person in detention, which annoyed me even more. As the last person walked out of the classroom, closing the door behind them, the teacher walked slowly over to my desk, slid a chair along the floor, and then sat at the other side of my desk, looking straight at me. Now, this was where I was expecting him to tell me exactly what I had done to deserve detention. But instead, he started making small talk, asking me things like, what's your dream college? And if you could travel anywhere in the world, where would you go? He was my teacher, so I answered. The conversation then rapidly changed to relationships. You know, I'm only 22, he said before laughing to himself. 8 years isn't much of an age gap. He told me that girls my age in other countries got married to people twice his age. I laughed uncomfortably and shrugged it off. When my detention was finally over, I called my mom to come to pick me up. The problem was that she was already asleep with my baby brother. I had no other choice except to ask my biology teacher to take me home. It was so awkward. I felt really uncomfortable as we climbed into his beaten-up red Toyota. It smelled like men's body spray. I told him where my house was, but he said that he had left something at his apartment, so we needed to stop there first. I didn't think anything of it, and agreed. Once we got to his place, he invited me inside. I know what you're thinking. How dumb can you be? But I was naive, and he was my teacher. I thought he would just give me a drink or something while he was doing whatever he needed to do. Anyway, I'm still not sure what it was that he needed to do at his place, but before I knew it, we were sitting next to each other on his couch. He started telling me how beautiful I was and how much he liked having me in his class. I tried to laugh and change the subject, but then out of nowhere, he leaned forward and kissed me. I was very confused, but it all happened so fast that I kissed him back. At this point, we were making out on his couch, and he started to take my clothes off. I had not done this before, and things were moving too quickly. I said to myself, "What are you doing?" I quickly jumped up and ran outside to get some air. He ran after me and began apologizing a lot. "Come on, I need to take you home," he said. He practically shoved me back into his red Toyota, which confused me even more. We just went from making out to now he's trying to get rid of me like nothing had happened. The whole journey home back to my house, we sat in silence, listening to nothing but the humming of the road. That night, I laid in my bed trying to process what had just happened. I was worried about what people would think of me if they ever found out. They might hate me, or at the very least, look at me differently and think that I was desperate. I probably only slept for an hour in between my mind racing trying to figure out what to do. I really wanted to tell my mom, or my head teacher, or the guidance counselor. But what if they say it was my fault? That I didn't try to stop it? And if it is my fault and I say something, I could ruin my teacher's career. And I really didn't want to live with that thought on top of everything else. The next day, I decided that I would go and see my guidance counselor. I needed to tell her that I wanted to drop my biology class. She asked me why, but I didn't want to tell her the truth. I couldn't. I just lied and said it wasn't right for me. For a long time now, I have felt confused and have questioned myself. Was I in the wrong for going back with him that night? Maybe I shouldn't have kissed him back in the first place. I sometimes feel paranoid that other people know and nervous about what will happen if they do. I still see him in the hall sometimes, but when I do, we both avoid eye contact at all costs. I know I made the right choice that night by not letting things go any further. I can't imagine how bad I would feel if they had. I am now left feeling upset and angry that a teacher, a person who is in a position of trust, would ever put me in this situation. And the more time I have had to reflect on it, the more I think I should have said something straight away. But now, I don't think people would even believe me. They would say that I was doing it for attention. If any adult, be it someone you don't know, a teacher, or even a family member, has acted or spoken inappropriately towards you, please speak with a parent or someone you can trust. There are always people there for you who will listen. You should never feel like you are in the wrong in these situations, and you don't have to keep things bottled up.